Wealth isn't a curse or some random stroke of luck. It's a blessing, a gift straight from God. But so few get it. They live like the Creator's stingy, holding out on them. Florence Scovel Shinn nailed it. What you're chasing is already yours in the unseen. And the Bible backs it up. It's the Lord who gives you the power to create wealth. Deuteronomy 8 verse 18. In this video, across 10 game-changing chapters, you'll uncover why wealth is a divine blessing, and how you can step into that blessing too. It'll flip the way you see money and prosperity forever. Stick around to the end, and decide, are you going to keep living in lack, or will you finally claim what's already yours by divine right? Chapter 1. Wealth is not a sin, the lie that imprisons generations. For centuries, countless people have been fed a sermon dressed up as humility. Money's dirty, wealth pulls you away from God, only the poor get into heaven. The result? Entire generations trapped in a scarcity mindset, convinced that scraping by is some badge of holiness. It's almost laughable. People preach this stuff with conviction while secretly dreaming of hitting the lottery or living worry-free. Hypocrisy? Self-deception? Probably both. Florence Scovel Shinn cuts through the nonsense. No one has to live in lack, because the divine supply is limitless. In other words, it's not God holding you back, it's your own mind. The Creator isn't some tight-fisted accountant in the sky, rationing coins to decide who's worthy. The Bible backs it up. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, without painful toil for it. Proverbs 10 verse 22. The problem? People twisted the message, sowing fear and turning wealth into a synonym for sin. Think about Abraham. He wasn't just spiritually blessed, he was loaded. Land, livestock, servants. He prospered in every way. Job, the richest man in the East before his trials, and after the storm, God restored him double. So why do so many still link wealth to a curse? Because it's easier to blame money than to own up to laziness, mismanagement, or a lack of vision. Here's the truth that stings. Poverty isn't a virtue, and wealth isn't a sin. Chronic poverty is a mental prison, while wealth can be a tool for good. The issue was never money, it's the heart behind it. Paul didn't say money is the root of all evil, he said the love of money is. Huge difference. Worship money, and you lose your soul. Use it as a tool, and you can amplify good, bless families, create jobs, support God's work, and change lives. What do you believe about wealth? That it's dangerous and should be dodged at all costs? Or that it's a blessing, meant to be received with responsibility? Your beliefs shape your reality. Florence Scovel Shinn said it best, your word is your magic wand. If you keep saying, money is dirty, don't expect prosperity to come knocking. But if you declare, wealth is a gift from God, you open your mind to create, attract, and sustain abundance. Maybe it's time to take a hard look at what you've inherited from your family, your culture, or even your church. Are you carrying a lie dressed up as spirituality? It's tough to admit, but scarcity is often fueled by toxic beliefs passed down through generations. Breaking free takes guts. So, let me ask you, do you still think wealth is a sin? Or are you starting to see it as part of God's promise? If this hits home, drop a comment below. I choose blessing, not scarcity. That simple statement could be the first step to rewiring your mind. And if this is opening your eyes, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. This is just the first truth. There's so much more to unpack about how prosperity is a spiritual calling, not just a material fluke. Chapter 2. Florence and the Invisible Key. Believing before seeing is the secret. We live in a culture obsessed with instant gratification. People only believe after they see, only celebrate after it happens, only give thanks after they get it. It's the show me first, then I'll believe mindset. Sounds reasonable, right? But that's exactly the thinking that keeps so many stuck in mediocrity. Florence Scovel Shinn put it plainly, you can only receive what you first see in your mind. In other words, if you can't envision it in the unseen, you'll never experience it in the seen. The Bible backs this up with spiritual clarity. Hebrews 11 verse 1 says, Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. That's the kind of faith that moved people like Noah, who built a massive ark without ever seeing rain, or Abraham, who set out without a clue where he was going, trusting in the promise. They didn't wait for proof, they believed first. And that's why their faith produced extraordinary results. What holds so many back from prosperity isn't a lack of talent, it's the inability to believe before the breakthrough. It's easier to say, I'll invest when I have money, or I'll study when I have time, or I'll grow when I have connections. But Florence calls out the flaw. Your mind is fertile soil, and whatever you plant in thought will eventually bear fruit. Plant doubt, and you'll harvest stagnation. Plant faith, and you'll reap abundance. Need a real-world example? People who built successful businesses often started with nothing but a vision. Steve Jobs launched Apple in his parents' garage. Walt Disney faced dozens of rejections before building his empire. They believed before they saw, and the result? The whole world ended up seeing what once existed only in their minds. You might think, but believing without seeing is just fooling yourself. No, believing without seeing is aligning with a divine principle. The real deception is spending your whole life saying, it won't work, I don't have enough, I can't, and dying without ever trying. Florence Scovel Shinn was blunt. What a man imagines, he creates. Simple and powerful. So let's get real. What are you declaring about your life? Are you waiting for a miracle to drop in your lap? Or are you exercising the faith to see it in your mind first? Prosperity doesn't come by chance. It grows from an unshakable conviction in the unseen that holds strong until the visible shows up. Maybe today's the day to flip that switch. Stop waiting to believe. Start believing to expect. Because wealth, abundance, and purpose always flow first in the invisible. Here's a challenge. If you truly believe wealth is a blessing from God, drop this in the comments. I see the invisible, I receive the impossible. That declaration could be the seed your mind needs to start working for you. If this chapter hit home, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. It helps us spread more light and ensures you won't miss the next truths we're about to unpack. Chapter 3. God does not bless lazy people. Intelligent effort overcomes pointless sweat. There's a lie too many people still buy into. If I just work hard enough, one day my life will change. But it's not true. We all know construction workers who toil under the blazing sun their whole lives, housekeepers who clean homes without a break, truck drivers who crisscross states non-stop. They work hard, yet stay poor. That's not a coincidence, it's a lack of direction. Florence Scovel Shinn warned, it's not brute force that moves mountains, but faith and the right word. Working without purpose is like rowing a sinking boat, all effort, no progress. The Bible spells it out clearly. Proverbs 10 verse 4 says, lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Laziness isn't just not working. It's working mechanically, without vision, without faith, without spiritual intelligence. God doesn't reward sweat without purpose. He rewards effort aligned with vision. That's why Joseph thrived in Egypt. He didn't whine as a slave. He used his smarts and faith to interpret dreams, manage resources, and rise to governor. Ever notice how some people are exhausted but never get ahead? They confuse effort with results. They pile up years of fatigue but not a dime of wealth. Florence put it perfectly. Man must act from inspiration, not forced effort. Inspired action comes from a connection with God, from the courage to chase an idea that seems crazy to others but is exactly the path to abundance. Smart effort isn't about working harder, it's about working right. Picture two farmers, one plants seeds in fertile soil, the other keeps tossing seeds onto pavement. The first reaps 100-fold with half the work. That's the difference between someone who seeks God's direction and someone who grinds out of habit. Here's the challenge. Maybe you're killing yourself working on something that'll never lead to abundance. Maybe God's already shown you an idea, a talent, a skill, but you're too scared to take the leap. Florence Scovel Shinn kept it real. Intuition is always the path to prosperity. The problem: Too many ignore that inner voice and keep grinding without purpose, as if blind effort is some kind of virtue. Here's the truth. Wealth isn't a reward for who suffers the most. It's the result of serving with intelligence and faith. Jesus himself gave us the parable of the talents, Matthew 25. The servant who buried his talent out of fear was called wicked and lazy. But those who multiplied their talents, they got even more. That shows God expects bold action from us, not excuses. So, let me ask you, are you working like the fearful servant, burying your talents, or like the bold one, multiplying your gifts? Because, in the end, laziness isn't just standing still. It's hiding behind excuses, pointless sweat, and a lack of vision. If this hits home, drop a comment. I choose smart, inspired effort. I want to see who's ready to own that decision publicly. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters. This could be the first step of your new journey. Chapter 4. Solomon didn't ask for gold, but he became a millionaire. What are you asking for? Most people are on their knees, praying for the wrong things. They ask for money, a new car, a job promotion. But guess what Solomon, the richest man in biblical history, did? He didn't ask for gold, power, or status. He asked for wisdom. And the result was so mind-blowing that he's still a benchmark for prosperity today. In 1 Kings 3 verse 13, God responds, I have also given you what you did not ask for, riches and honor, so that no king will be your equal. Notice the divine logic. Ask for wisdom, and wealth follows as a byproduct. But chase wealth without wisdom, and even if you get it, you'll lose it fast. How many lottery winners end up broke in a few years? Abundance that doesn't come from within doesn't last. Florence Scovel Shinn nailed it. What's etched in your subconscious mind manifests outwardly. If your mind is poor, your life will be poor, even if your pockets are temporarily full. Here's the challenge. What are you asking God for? Maybe you're aiming too low. Maybe you're praying for blessings that only feed the moment, not the future. Solomon asked for wisdom, and it brought not just material wealth, but stability, honor, and legacy. Most people still don't get it. The problem isn't a lack of opportunities, it's a lack of mindset. People pray for money but cling to scarcity thinking, blowing it all on the first whim. Others pray for success but surround themselves with toxic people who drag them down. Prayer without an aligned mindset is just words in the wind. As Florence put it, words without faith are seeds that never sprout. Look around. How many people do you know who are frustrated because they asked God for just a little help? That's a spiritual beggar's mindset. God isn't some low-wage boss. He's the creator of gold and silver. The mistake is asking for pocket change when he wants to hand you vaults. The Bible drives this home in James 1 verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all. Wisdom is the master key that unlocks every door. The gold you're chasing? It's just a byproduct. Get this, and you'll stop running after money and start pursuing understanding. So pause and ask yourself, what are you praying for? Quick cash, shortcuts, surface-level fixes? Or are you asking for what can truly transform your mind, your life, and your legacy? Remember, Solomon asked for wisdom and got wealth. Today, millions ask for wealth and stay broke because they haven't cracked the spiritual code. Here's my challenge. If you could ask God for one thing right now, what would it be? Drop your answer in the comments. This could be the most powerful exercise you'll ever do. And if this chapter got you thinking, hit that like button and subscribe. We're decoding the spiritual secrets of abundance, chapter by chapter, together. Chapter 5, The Egypt Within You. How Joseph prospered in a strange land, and you can too. When we talk about prosperity, a lot of people think they need to be in the right place, with the right people, under perfect conditions. But Joseph's story obliterates that excuse once and for all. He wasn't in some ideal setup. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown in prison, humanly speaking, Joseph had every reason to give up. Yet, he prospered. Genesis 39 verse 2 lays it out. The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered in everything he did. That's the key. Prosperity doesn't hinge on your external environment, but on God's presence and your inner mindset. Joseph was in Egypt, a foreign land, unfamiliar culture, full of obstacles. Yet, he stood out so much he ended up ruling the most powerful nation of his time. Here's the gut punch. You've got an Egypt inside you too. Adverse situations, unfair circumstances, environments that seem stacked against you. Maybe it's a job where you're undervalued, a town with no opportunities, or a family that doesn't believe in you. But as Florence Scovel Shinn taught, what you project on the inside overcomes any barrier on the outside. If Joseph had waited for perfect conditions, he'd have died forgotten in a cell. The difference? Joseph didn't waste time complaining. He transformed every environment he entered. As a slave, he became a manager. As a prisoner, he emerged a leader. As a foreigner, he rose to governor. While others say, "I'll prosper when things get better," Joseph was already prospering before things got better. That's the abundance mindset. Here's where the challenge hits hard. What are you doing in your Egypt? Are you whining, pointing fingers, playing the victim? Or are you using that tough spot as a laboratory for greatness? Florence Scovel Shinn said it best, "Adversity is a springboard for those with eyes of faith. For others, it's just a stumbling block." Joseph prospered because he didn't let injustice define who he was. He knew his source wasn't his boss, the land, or his circumstances. It was God. Once you get that, you stop quitting on life just because it's hard. If your environment feels hostile, use it to train your faith, sharpen your smarts, and hone your adaptability. Pause and think, are you waiting for your Egypt to vanish before you thrive? Joseph shows us that the foreign land can be the exact stage where God proves to the world He's with you. Now I want to hear from you. What's the Egypt you're facing today? Drop it in the comments. Naming it might just be the first step to turning it into a place of prosperity. And of course, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because we're diving deep into the truths about wealth and spirituality that nobody else dares to touch. Chapter 6. Words that build empires, when mouth and faith work together. If you still think words are just noise tossed into the air, you're dead wrong. Words are invisible bricks that build or tear down empires. Your mouth isn't just a tool for chit-chat, it's the factory where wealth, health, and destiny are shaped. The Bible lays it out in Proverbs 18 verse 21. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. In other words, you're feasting today on what you spoke yesterday. If you're always complaining, guess what's on the menu? More debt, more frustration, more bad luck. But if you proclaim victory, you make room for it to show up. Florence Scovel Shinn never stopped hammering this home. Your word is your magic wand. With it, you draw closer what you desire, or what you fear. She knew speaking activates a spiritual law, the same one Jesus used when he told the sea, "Be still," and the wind stopped. Notice, he didn't sit quietly hoping the waves would calm. He spoke. Here's what most miss. Talking without faith is just noise. It's like yelling at a wall, expecting it to turn into a door. But when your words and faith team up, walls crumble, like they did at Jericho. Israel didn't need dynamite, they needed declaration. Want a real-world example? Picture an entrepreneur facing one failure after another. Two paths lie ahead. Option 1, they keep saying, "I'm a failure, nothing works for me." Option 2, they declare, "Every experience makes me stronger, my next try will succeed." Who do you think will have the energy, creativity, and favor to rise again? It's simple. Speak defeat, and you'll attract defeat. Proclaim victory, and you make room for it to bloom. This isn't some cheap self-help gimmick. It's a spiritual principle. Job himself said it, "What I feared has come upon me, what I dreaded has happened to me." Job 3 verse 25. He voiced his fear, and that fear became reality. Now, be honest. What are you saying about your financial life? Phrases like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "There's never enough," or "I'm poor but honest" seem harmless, but they're curses in disguise. you might be sabotaging your own harvest without even realizing it. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the right words open invisible doors. It's not enough to believe in abundance, you've got to talk like you're already living it. When you say, "My provision is already on its way," you activate a force that connects you with opportunities, people, and circumstances that align with it. Want to change your destiny? Watch every word. Put a guard over your mouth, like David prayed in Psalm 141 verse 3. Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Because it's not your neighbor, the government, or your boss who decides your prosperity. It's your own tongue. Think about it. If your words were bricks, are you building a palace or digging a grave? Drop it in the comments. Are you aware of the words you repeat daily about money and your future? Or are you accidentally reinforcing scarcity? If this chapter got you thinking, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Your engagement fuels this community that's choosing words of life and abundance. Chapter 7. Circles that impoverish. Getting out of the circle of the bankrupt is a spiritual commandment. There's an uncomfortable truth too many ignore. You can have talent, vision, and faith, but if you're surrounded by people who breathe scarcity, you'll struggle to see abundance. This isn't judgment, it's spiritual law. Psalm 1 kicks off with a warning. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers. In plain terms, the first step to prosperity is choosing wisely where you park yourself. Here's the irony. Plenty of folks say they want wealth but won't ditch the crowd that spends hours griping about life, mocking the successful, and chanting, "The rich only get richer by exploiting the poor." Florence Scovel Shinn warned, environment is destiny. She knew that hanging with people who are mentally broke is a surefire way to inherit their emotional and financial defeats. Look at Joseph, sold as a slave and wrongfully imprisoned. By human standards, he was at rock bottom. So why did he thrive in Egypt? Because he steered clear of the victim mindset. He didn't join the grumblers in prison. Instead, he stayed upright, connected to God, until Pharaoh pulled him from the cell to manage Egypt's abundance. If Joseph had spent his days whining with the other inmates, he'd have died forgotten in that jail. Ever notice how toxic circles work? There's always a collective prophecy of failure. Nobody believes, nobody tries, and anyone who dares to dream gets laughed at. That's not just hanging out, it's a spiritual alliance. Every time you nod along to defeatist talk, you're signing an invisible contract with scarcity. Florence was blunt. Nothing good grows in poisoned soil. If you want abundance, you've got to change your environment. That goes for friends, family, even the online groups you follow. Anyone planting negativity in your ears is hijacking your future harvest. Here's the thing, stepping away from the circle of the broke doesn't mean abandoning people. It means refusing to align with their limiting beliefs. You can love someone and still reject the poison in their words. It's about taking a stand. Want to know if your circle is dragging you down or lifting you up? Ask yourself, does this group celebrate wins or mock them? Do they talk more about problems or solutions? Do they inspire courage or feed fear? The answers will show if you're sitting in a circle of abundance or failure. Here's the spiritual mandate, it's not optional. Prosperity demands breaking free from environments that breed scarcity. Abraham only claimed his promise after leaving Ur. Ruth only found abundance when she left Moab. Obeying the call means cutting ties with circles that hold back your destiny. So, what about you? Do you have the guts to walk away from the table where everyone's serving complaints, envy, and defeat? Or will you stay stuck at a feast of collective misery? If this hit home, drop a comment. What circle do you know you should have left behind by now? And don't forget to like and subscribe, because here, we're building a different kind of circle. One of people chasing abundance as a divine principle, not a fluke. Chapter 8. Isaac on dry land. Thriving even when everything seems against you. When you look at today's world, economic crisis, unemployment, inflation, debt, it's easy to think, prospering now is impossible. But the Bible drops a bombshell. Isaac thrived in Gerar during a famine, when everyone else was bailing. And get this, He planted in dry, barren land. That's practically irrational, sowing where there's no hope. The result: he reaped 100-fold that same year. Genesis 26 verse 12. Notice, Isaac didn't run. He didn't say, "I'll wait for better times." No, he acted in faith. The land was dry, but his heart was watered by trust in God. This is where so many miss it. They think prosperity hinges on perfect conditions. They don't see that the real harvest starts inside, not out there. Florence Scovel Shinn backs this up. Those who expect nothing get nothing. Those who give thanks before receiving have already drawn their blessing. Isaac didn't plant because he saw abundance around him. He planted because he believed the blessing was coming. So, ask yourself, are you planting based on what you see or what you believe? How many today ditch their dreams because things aren't good or the competition's too tough? Isaac didn't check the news. He looked to the heavens. And that made all the difference. If you only see scarcity, you'll attract scarcity. If you see a harvest, you'll attract a harvest. It's a spiritual law, not an economic forecast. It's shocking but true. So many of you are waiting for the environment to improve before you act. But prosperity isn't about waiting. It's about deciding. It's not about when the government steps in or when the market opens up. It's about planting now, even in dry ground. Florence Scovel Shinn would say, don't wait for favorable conditions. Create them with your words and faith. Here's what happens. Small thinkers retreat. Those with faith plant. Those with vision reap. And the Bible shows us Isaac became so wildly prosperous that the Philistines got jealous. Real prosperity rattles those who stayed stuck, waiting. Now think about it. Are you wasting your 100-fold year because you're scared of the dry land? Could it be that God wants to show His abundance right in the tough times? Here's my challenge. Drop a comment and share your Isaac moment. A time when everything seemed stacked against you, but you dared to plant and prospered. Your story could spark hope for someone staring at a desert right now. And remember, if Isaac thrived in barren land, what's holding you back? Faith or the courage to act? Chapter 9, Florence and Anticipatory Gratitude, the secret password to manifestation. Most people say, thank you, after they get something. Sounds logical, right? You receive a gift, a favor, an opportunity, then you say thanks. But spiritually, that logic is backward. Florence Scovel Shinn was bold about it. Gratitude opens the doors to abundance and must be practiced before the blessing shows up. In other words, thanking afterward is politeness. Thanking beforehand is faith. Let's poke at this. How many of you pray like you're begging a grumpy bureaucrat? Lord, if it's your will, maybe please, help me pay this bill. That's not faith, it's spiritual groveling. The Bible never shows God's people prospering by begging. Paul wrote, give thanks in all circumstances, 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 18. Notice, not after, but in all things. Look at Jesus with the loaves and fish. Before the miracle happened, he lifted the measly bread and fish and gave thanks, John 6 verse 11. He didn't wait to see the crowd fed. He thanked for the little as if it was already enough. The result: multiplication. That's the code Florence unlocks. Anticipatory gratitude. But let's be real. What do you give thanks for? The bill that's paid or the miracle that hasn't arrived yet? Most people only open their mouths when the money hits the bank. Meanwhile, their lives stay stuck. Florence put it this way: the person who gives thanks beforehand already possesses in the invisible what hasn't yet appeared in the visible. It's provocative but simple. If you only thank after, you're not tapping into the spiritual law of anticipation. Think about Abraham. God promised him a ton of descendants, but he didn't even have one kid. Romans 4 verse 20 says he grew strong by giving glory to God, even when he saw nothing. That's anticipatory gratitude, celebrating before holding Isaac in his arms. Today, so many miss out on prosperity because they're stuck in human logic, only believing when they see. Result: they never see anything. Here's a modern example. Picture someone drowning in debt, staring at a pile of bills. They could look at that stack and grumble, "My life is nothing but scarcity." Or they could face those same bills and say, "Thank you, Lord, because I already have provision for every single one." Guess who attracts abundance? The complainer or the one thanking for the invisible? Gratitude is proof you already believe. Here's the challenge. Are you delaying your own miracle by insisting on thanking only after? Is your life stuck because your mouth only opens to complain, not to celebrate? I want to hear from you. Have you ever practiced anticipatory gratitude? Have you thanked God for a victory before it showed up? Share in the comments. Your story could be the key that unlocks someone's faith who's trapped in despair today. The bottom line is clear. Prosperity doesn't come to those who wait to see. It comes to those who celebrate without seeing. Florence was right. Gratitude beforehand is the password. The Bible confirms it. The one who gives thanks in all things is already in the center of God's will. So, what about you? Will you keep thanking too late, or will you start using the password for manifestation today? Chapter 10. Purpose over money. The wealth that remains when everything passes. Let's cut to the chase. If your only goal is to stack cash so you can die clutching a fat bank account, congrats, you've already lost before you started. Obsessing over money for money's sake is like chasing smoke and thinking you can grab it. Florence Scovel Shinn put it bluntly, you shouldn't work for money, but for purpose, and money will follow as a result. It's shocking but true. Wealth is just a side effect of living aligned with something bigger. The Bible backs this up in Matthew 6 verse 33. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. It's clear, it's not about obsessing over having, but about connecting with being. Money isn't the goal, it's the outcome. Yet how many live like piling up cash is life's only point? That's why so many have full wallets but empty souls. Look at Solomon. He could have asked for riches, revenge, or fame, but he chose wisdom. The result? He became the wealthiest man of his time. He got the spiritual math. Seek purpose, and wealth comes as a bonus. Most people do the opposite. Chase wealth and lose even what they had. How often do we see folks hit the top, only to crash and burn inside because they built a mountain of gold on quicksand? Florence drives it home. What's from God lasts. What's merely human falls apart. If your life revolves around just paying bills, chasing status, or flexing, you're playing a shallow game that ends fast and ugly. The real game is asking, why am I here? What's my unique mission in this world? That answer doesn't just fill your heart, it opens material doors, because the universe rewards those aligned with the divine flow. Let's make it practical. Picture two people. The first works just for the paycheck, does the bare minimum, plays it safe, lives for Friday. The second, even in simple tasks, pours in passion, sees purpose, and finds impact beyond the grind. Who do you think attracts more opportunities? Who thrives long-term? Exactly, the one who treats work as a calling, not a curse. Here's the challenge. If all your money vanished tomorrow, would you still have a reason to get out of bed? Or would your world collapse because your identity is tied to your bank balance? That's the test of true wealth. Because, in the end, money is just paper. Purpose is eternal. Florence Scovel Shinn never stops saying it. The person who knows their purpose doesn't fear lack, because they're in harmony with the source of all supply. That's why those who live aligned don't panic in crises. They might lose contracts, businesses, even possessions, but they never lose the ability to start over, because their foundation isn't money, it's purpose. Think of Joseph in Egypt, who endured slavery, prison, and humiliation. If his goal was just get rich, he'd have quit at the first stumble. But because he knew his life had a bigger mission, he powered through every phase and became governor of the most powerful nation of his time. The money came, the power came, not because he chased them, but because he chased purpose. So here's the game changer. If you're only chasing wealth, you might get it, but it'll be a hollow victory. Chase purpose, and wealth will follow like a shadow of your light. That kind of wealth doesn't fade, can't be stolen, and won't rot. What about you? Are you chasing dollar signs or purpose? Drop it in the comments. I want to know which side of this story you're choosing to live on. If this hit deep, leave a comment with, "My purpose is greater than money." Like the video and subscribe to keep walking this path of wisdom with Florence Scovel Shinn and the Bible as our guides in more videos on the channel. Until the next video.